prepare yourself to witness one of the most painfully humiliating moments ever recorded inside Judge Judy's courtroom. This was more than a routine dispute. It became a defining moment in televised legal drama. For 47 unforgettable seconds, viewers everywhere were left stunned, replaying the footage again and again. What made it so shocking? A woman named Karen believed she could enter that courtroom, challenge the judge's authority, and even ridicule her unmistakable Brooklyn accent. Right to her face, the reaction was instant. Gasps echoed through the courtroom as cameras continued to roll. The judge's face remained composed, but her eyes sharpened into that unmistakable look, calm, focused, and unforgiving. Karen had no idea she had just set off one of the fastest and most devastating confrontations ever broadcast. In under a minute, exactly 47 seconds, her confidence would collapse, her smirk would fade, and she would be reduced to tears before millions watching. Karen Mitchell wasn't just another plaintiff. She was the embodiment of entitlement. Those who knew her described someone who escalated minor inconveniences into major conflicts. Whether it was a small complaint or a disagreement, she treated everything like a battle she had to win. In her world, people either served her or needed correction. When she got the chance to appear on the show, she saw it as her opportunity, not just to win a case over a designer handbag, but to prove she was smarter and tougher than the judge herself. From the moment she stepped into the courtroom, it was clear she came prepared for a performance, not a legal argument. She carried herself with exaggerated confidence, dressed to project superiority. In her hands was a portfolio stuffed with internet printouts she believed made her more knowledgeable than a judge with decades of experience. To Karen, the judge wasn't a respected authority. She was simply another obstacle to overcome. But the judge didn't just listen, she observed. From Karen's very first eye roll, she had already begun forming her judgment. Every dismissive laugh, every muttered remark, every exaggerated reaction added to the picture. What Karen saw as confidence, everyone else recognized as disrespect. And the judge waited calm, patient, allowing Karen to reveal herself fully. The case itself seemed simple. Karen claimed her former friend had damaged a designer handbag worth around $1,000. But for her, this wasn't about compensation. It was about validation. She had rehearsed this moment, even studying past episodes and practicing imitations of the judge's accent. She believed that accent was a weakness. So when a simple question was asked, Karen couldn't resist. Leaning forward with a smirk, she mimicked the judge's voice in a mocking tone. The courtroom froze. For a brief moment, everything stood still. The judge didn't react outwardly, but her gaze locked onto Karen with unmistakable intensity. The silence that followed felt overwhelming. Karen leaned back, convinced she had just gained an advantage. What she didn't realize was that she had stepped into serious trouble. The judge did not tolerate mockery, and what followed would not be mild. It would become one of the most memorable takedowns ever seen. Instead of responding immediately, the judge allowed silence to take control. She leaned back, hands folded, letting tension build. The audience shifted uneasily, sensing what was coming. Her reputation wasn't built on loud reactions. It was built on precision. So she didn't just rule, she taught lessons. When she finally spoke, her tone was calm but firm. She reminded Karen that this was a courtroom, not a place for entertainment, and respect was mandatory. Karen misread the situation completely. Smirking, she responded sarcastically, claiming she was only trying to lighten the mood. The discomfort in the room deepened. This wasn't confidence. It was provocation. The judge had encountered countless individuals like Karen before, people who relied on arrogance instead of truth. She had dismantled them all. Leaning forward slightly, her voice dropped into a controlled tone. She asked Karen directly if she had mocked her in her own courtroom. Karen shrugged it off with a careless remark, doubling down instead of backing away. That was a turning point. The judge responded with clarity. Her accent had no effect on the law, but Karen's arrogance would affect everything. The room fell silent. Karen's expression shifted as she realized too late that her attempt at humor had cost her credibility, but the judge wasn't finished. So, she had already reviewed the documents and found inconsistencies, numbers that didn't match, timelines that didn't make sense. While Karen had prepared jokes, the judge had prepared facts. The audience leaned forward, sensing what was about to unfold. The judge adjusted her papers. The breakdown was about to begin. Part 2. Last half, the atmosphere changed completely as the judge leaned forward. Karen, who had entered with confidence, now appeared smaller. She had been given the chance to hold back, but instead she had pushed forward, tightening the situation around herself. The judge spoke calmly, but every word carried weight. She made it clear that Karen treated the courtroom like a stage, But the only performance happening was her own downfall. Karen tried to interrupt, but the judge continued. Mockery didn't win cases, evidence did. And that's where Karen's story began to unravel. The first contradiction was exposed, the handbag's value. Karen claimed it was worth $1,000, yet her written statement listed it as $800. When she tried to explain, the judge cut through the excuse immediately. And came the next issue, conflicting dates about when the damage occurred. Karen attempted to dismiss it as a simple mistake, but the judge didn't accept that. One mistake might be understandable, but she had counted 17 inconsistencies before Karen even spoke. 17 contradictions. The shift was immediate. Karen's confidence began to crack. Her smirk disappeared, replaced by visible anxiety. When she tried to defend herself, the judge pressed harder, pointing out that respect for the court had already been compromised. Seconds passed. Karen's hands began to tremble. She shuffled her papers, trying to recover. The judge continued, emphasizing the difference between facts and theatrics. At 30 seconds, Karen's voice faltered. The confidence was gone. She tried to justify her behavior as passion, but the judge rejected that firmly. Passion seeks truth, arrogance avoids it. Karen's transformation was clear. Her composed appearance unraveled. Her posture collapsed. And at the 47-second mark, it was over. Tears filled her eyes. Her voice broke as she tried to explain herself. The judge delivered the final blow. Karen had believed mockery gave her power, but instead it exposed her completely. The courtroom remained silent, heavy with finality. Karen, who had entered with confidence and rehearsed lines, was now reduced to tears, facing the consequences of her own actions. But the case itself still needed resolution. The judge delivered her ruling with precision. She made it clear that cases are decided by facts and respect. Karen had demonstrated neither. Her claim was dismissed entirely. The impact was immediate. Karen reacted with disbelief, but the decision was final. The judge added one final piece of advice. Mocking authority doesn't elevate a person. It destroys them. Karen's breakdown continued, but the outcome had already been sealed. When the episode aired, the aftermath was swift. The clip spread rapidly across social media, capturing the moment her confidence turned into collapse. Within seconds, Viewers reacted strongly. The footage became a viral example of how quickly arrogance can fall apart. In her community, recognition followed, but not in the way she had hoped. People distanced themselves. Meanwhile, the judge's reputation only grew stronger. Experts praised her handling of the case as a demonstration of firm courtroom authority. For viewers, the lesson was unmistakable. Authenticity is not weakness. Respect is essential. Karen had sought attention and validation. Instead, she became a cautionary example, someone who underestimated the importance of humility and paid the price publicly. The consequences extended beyond the courtroom. Opportunities disappeared, and public perception turned against her. Even personal relationships suffered. She had wanted recognition. She achieved it, but as a warning. In the end, the message was simple: humility prevails. Arrogance fails. And in that courtroom, disrespect doesn't just carry consequences. It becomes a lesson for everyone watching. The atmosphere shifted the instant the judge leaned forward. Karen, who had entered with bold confidence, now seemed noticeably diminished. She had been given every opportunity to step back, but instead she had continued forward, tightening the situation around herself with every word. The judge began speaking in a calm, controlled tone, yet each word carried unmistakable weight. She made it clear that Karen appeared to believe this was some kind of performance. But the only act unfolding was her own collapse. Karen tried to interject, but she was immediately overruled. Mockery, the judge explained, does not determine outcomes. Evidence does. And it was precisely there that Karen's argument began to fall apart. The first inconsistency was addressed: the value of the handbag. Karen claimed it was worth $1,000, yet her own written statement listed it as $800. When she attempted to justify the discrepancy, the judge shut it down without hesitation. Then came the next issue: conflicting dates about when the damage had supposedly occurred. Karen brushed it off as a simple mistake, but that explanation didn't hold. One mistake might be understandable, but the judge had already identified 17 inconsistencies before Karen had even begun speaking in court. 17 contradictions. The shift was immediate. Karen's confidence began to fracture. Her earlier smirk disappeared, replaced by visible unease. When she attempted to defend herself, the judge pressed harder, pointing out that respect for the court had already been compromised by her behavior. Seconds ticked by. Karen's hands began to shake as she fumbled through her papers, searching for something to hold on to. The judge continued, drawing a clear distinction between preparation rooted in facts and preparation built on mockery. By the 30-second mark, Karen's voice had begun to break. Confidence she had displayed moments earlier was gone. She tried to reframe her actions as passion, but the judge dismissed that instantly. Passion seeks truth, arrogance avoids it. Karen's transformation was undeniable. Her polished appearance began to unravel, her posture collapsing into visible distress, and at exactly 47 seconds, it was over. Tears welled in her eyes, spilling over as her voice cracked into sobs. She tried to explain herself, but the moment had already passed. The judge delivered the decisive line. Karen had believed that mockery gave her power, but instead it had exposed her entirely. The courtroom remained silent, heavy with the finality of what had just occurred. Karen, who had entered with rehearsed confidence and calculated remarks, was now reduced to tears, facing the consequences of her own actions in front of a national audience. But the proceedings were not yet complete. The judge delivered her ruling with precision and clarity. She emphasized that cases are not won through arrogance or theatrics, but through facts and respect, both of which Karen had failed to demonstrate. Her claim was dismissed entirely. The impact was immediate. Karen reacted with shock, but the decision was final. The judge offered one final piece of advice. Mocking authority does not elevate a person. It only leads to their downfall. Karen continued to sob, but nothing could change the outcome that had already been sealed. When the episode aired, the aftermath was swift and widespread. The clip circulated rapidly across social media, capturing the moment her confidence collapsed within seconds. Viewers responded strongly. The footage became a viral example of how quickly arrogance can unravel under scrutiny. In her own community, recognition followed, but not in the way she had intended. People began distancing themselves, unwilling to be associated with her behavior. Meanwhile, the judge's reputation only strengthened. Legal commentators praised the handling of the case as a clear demonstration of authority and control within the courtroom. For audiences, the lesson was unmistakable. Authenticity is not weakness, and respect is essential. Karen had sought attention and validation. Instead, she became a cautionary example, someone who underestimated the value of humility and faced the consequences publicly. The repercussions extended beyond the courtroom. Opportunities diminished, public perception shifted, and even personal relationships suffered. She had wanted recognition, and she achieved it, but as a warning rather than a success. In the end, the message was simple and enduring. Humility prevails, arrogance fails. And inside that courtroom, disrespect doesn't just carry consequences. It becomes a lesson witnessed by everyone watching.